Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of Step by Step. I just got back from the 2017 International North American Championships and I want to let you guys know how it went. It was really exciting and I did pretty well. So yeah, I just wanted to go over everything with you guys. So the deck I settled on was Espeon Garbodor Passimian, but I have this Ninetales list pulled up because I was heavily considering it for about 2 days before the tournament started. On Wednesday, no, Tuesday, I think I had run across the concept online somewhere, and I really wanted to test it out. And in PTCGO testing, it did really, really good. So I was a little bit suspicious because I don't always trust my PTCGO testing. So I built it in real life and found out that it struggled a little bit with the Espeon matchup. Basically, the strategy in the Espeon matchup would have been to spread around a bunch of damage with Tapu Koko and Ninetales, and then devolve all the Espeons and Garbodors, which I found was just hard to do every single game against Espeon Garbodor. So I thought maybe there was another version of the deck. Oh, and by the way, in this one, I had Max Elixir and Aqua Patch, so I could get Ninetales as quickly as possible by Max Elixiring to Vulpix. So anyways, I really liked this version, but then on the car ride up, we thought, hey, maybe Ninetales just needs a non-two prize attacker, and maybe it just needs an easier way to Aqua Patch to it, so we just decided on trying Zoroark instead. This deck was actually really, really strong. We cut the Max Elixirs in the Espeon, cut down on the Coco promos a little bit, and then ended up just going with a 2-2 Zoroark for this list. So this list was really strong. I really liked it. I thought I was going to play it, and then the night before the tournament, we ended up finding out that it doesn't have the best Espeon Garbodor matchup. So, great. But it was a lot of fun. I play PTCGO on my phone, so it was a lot of fun. I drove, though, so it was a lot of fun having my friends playtest this deck on my phone while we were driving up for 8 hours. So, yeah, it was good to get a lot of good testing in that way. But this deck just didn't quite get it done like I was hoping it would. So I settled on Garbodor Passimian myself, and I'll tell you how that deck came to be. So as you're probably well aware, I was really big on Garbodor Trevenant for a long time. I had won a League Cup with it, I had done really well with it in a couple of tournaments, so I really liked it. But then the advent of Espeon knocked out every single Pokemon in my deck. I was playing Garbodor Trevenant, and then I had a bad Darkrai matchup that I accidentally won once, so I I threw in Passimian because I didn't want to take an auto loss to Darkrai. But I just couldn't beat Espeon. Espeon one-shot everything in the deck. So I decided to just sub out the Trevenant for a 3-2-1 Espeon line. Garbodor Trevenant had a hard time with Tapu Bulu, Metagross, Decidueye, and the opposing Espeons. So I felt like this rounded up all the matchups. Espeon was a good counter to Tapu Bulu. The Flareon helps me beat Metagross and Decidueye, and the Espeon itself also helps in the Espeon Mirror. So, this is the exact list that I played. At the bottom of the screen, it's 4 DCE and 7 Psychic Energies. It always cuts it off for some reason, and I don't know why. But yeah, I'll go over a couple of the card choices. First and foremost, the obvious one is Passimian. Passimian was really, really strong for me in testing. I almost didn't play it. I almost thought, man, there's so many decks out there. I may not see a fighting weak deck all day. But I thought Zoroark Drampa was just too popular, especially with the ability to splash in an Umbreon and counter this deck even harder. I just thought it was too popular, and that in a tournament where I could only lose 2 games, I just didn't want to lose game number 3 because the one time I faced it, I didn't have my Passimians. So the standard Espeon list should run a 4th Eevee, a 3rd Espeon, a Delinquent, an Oranguru, things like that. Some of them may not run a 4th Eevee and a 3rd Espeon, but I cut those from the conceptual ideal list to add in Passimian. Now, a lot of Espeon lists that I heard about and was testing the night before Nationals ran a Pokemon Center Lady for the mirror match, and Honestly, I just wasn't super concerned about the mirror match, as silly as that sounds. I just dropped it for Teammates and said, hey, I'm going with this. Teammates was the MVP support of the day. Well, Teammates and Bridget for sure. But Teammates was probably the better of the two supporters. It was just so clutch so many times. One of the best plays you could do was Teammates for a card you need plus a VS Seeker. That way next turn when something got knocked out, you could Teammates for 2 more cards. So like you're getting guaranteed 3 cards that you need over the course of 2 turns. It really allows you to plan out things and win games. But anyways, so I added in 4 Passimian. It won me 3 full rounds. It won me a round versus Zorak Drampa Umbreon, a round versus Zorak Drampa, and a round versus Turbo Dark. So I went 3-0 in those rounds because of that. And actually looking at the specific games, I was 6-1 in those matchups. And Passimian took, I didn't write it down, but Passimian took roughly 27 or 28 prizes in those 3 rounds. It was pretty insane. Flareon only helped me 1 round, and that was round 1 against Decidueye Vileplume. Hey, in a tournament where you can only lose 2 games, if you can win an entire round because of 1 card, great. So I think if I were to change anything, Shaman didn't help me at all. I would drop Shaman for a 4th VS Seeker, and I might consider dropping Kukui for a 4th N. I think just that added consistency would be a little bit stronger, and then I might reconsider the Flareon spot, but I probably would just leave it, to be completely honest. In the mirror match, the reason why I was okay with not playing Pokemon Center Lady, I just kind of assumed a mirror match was like the old school Mewtwo Wars, and whoever gets aggressive with their Espeon first loses. So my thought was, I'm just gonna nonchalantly attach a Psychic Energy to my Trubbish. My opponent won't play any items, they think they'll be fine. And then when they get aggressive with their Espeon, I'll evolve to Garbodor, attach a double colorless and a choice band, and acid spray for 200 damage and the knockout. That was strategy number 1 in the mirror match. Strategy number 2 was just let them get their Espeon active before I do, and then I'll just put a Psychic on my Espeon, leave it on the bench, and then when they knock something out, I'll just bring it up with a DCE, grab a band if I need to, and then Psychic for the knockout. Yeah, I would fall behind in prizes that way, but at the same time, it would leave their board without a fully powered Espeon while I had one, making it near impossible for them to get a return KO, thus giving me the stronger board state and the ability to win the game. So, as far as my matchups are concerned, round 1, I played against Decidueye Vileplume. I won that one 2-0 thanks to Flareon. Flareon was clutch. I don't even think I played the Garbotoxin Garbodor in that matchup. It's kind of weird. You can pick between which one you want, Garbotoxin or Flareon, but you can't do both in that matchup, and most of the time I find Flareon to just be the better ability to use in that matchup. Like, I'll let them drop damage counters on me if I can get a one-shot every turn, for sure. Round 2 was interesting. I played against a Brooklet Hill Volcanion being piloted by someone that I had played before a long time ago named Jimmy Pendarvis. He's a really good player. But it was an interesting round. This was the round that they started running Blue Flight independent from Orange Flight. If you're unfamiliar with how internationals or intercontinentals, whatever it's called, is ran, there's so many players that they basically split the tournament up into 2 flights, orange and blue. They've done this even back when it was called nationals. So I was in the blue flight, and the pairings were just starting to go up for blue, and I had to use the restroom, so I was just entering the restroom as pairings for blue went up. So I kind of turned around and looked, and I was like, well, pairings for orange aren't up yet, so they're not going to start the round yet. They're just getting blue in their seats. So I just ran to the restroom, ran back out, and everyone in blue was sitting down, and I was like, wait, why is everyone in blue sitting down when orange hasn't even gotten their pairings yet? So I was like, I gotta get to my seat, because I have no idea what's going on. So I was frantically trying to find my seat, which unfortunately was all the way at the other end of the convention center. Even though I was 1-0, I was sitting at like table 79 out of like 350 tables. So I had to go all the way to the front of the convention center to find my table. Maybe it was table 73, something like that. 73, 79, I don't know. And I was about 40 feet from my chair when they said you may begin the round. So I got to my table like 10 seconds late. And the head judge told me, "Hey, you can't win this game on time. You have to take, you have to take 2 full games to win." And so I was like, "Oh, okay, that's fine." So I won game 1. Jimmy won game 2, and then as we were setting up game 3, time was called, and I was like, "Okay, well, we tied." And and Jimmy was like, I don't think so." So then the judge came over, and I was like, "Hey, I won game 1, he won game 2, time was called. I was like 10 seconds late to the round." And the judge was like, "Yeah, I'm sorry, you can't tie on time either." It's my fault. I didn't know the rule. They showed me in the rule book. I mean, I wasn't upset. I was just more like, man, I really should know my should know my attendance rules. I wasn't upset at all. The only thing I would have done differently, game 2, I fell behind pretty quickly. I should have just scooped it and gone to game 3 after I went down by a couple prizes. I won game 1. Like I said, he was winning game 2 pretty easily. I thought maybe it would just go to time and we would tie, but I didn't know that we couldn't tie on time, with me being a little bit late to the round. So good to learn. It was a good learning experience, and yeah, I should have just scooped game 2 and gone to game 3 to see what could happen if I could pull out game 3 before time was called. After the round, I just I messaged my wife and I was like, "Hey, this is just what happened. I'm not upset about it. I'm just gonna be positive because maybe my matchups from here on out will be better than they were if I had won the game or actually gotten a tie, and maybe a win or a tie would have led to rougher matchups, and I wouldn't do as well if I had that. So I'm just gonna choose to be positive about it, learn from it, and not worry about it." And I'm glad I took that mindset, because I really do feel like it helped me the rest of my rounds. So round 3, I played against Israel Sosa with Patch City. If you're unfamiliar with the term, Patch City is Lapras with a couple other support Pokemon like Articuno and Manaphy for free retreat, and it just uses Max Elixir and Aqua Patch to accelerate energies to the Lapras. It was a crazy game. I won game 1 barely, he won game 2, and then I won game 3 barely. It was for a deck that is gonna play like 9 to 11 item cards guaranteed. He's insanely good, and the matchup is so scary. It was really, really, really good games. Round 4, I played against Zoroark Drampa. It was pretty interesting. The opponent I was playing, before the round started, said, "Hey, I heard some players are playing Passimian in their lists. I don't understand that. I just think Passimian's so bad." And I just kind of smiled. And then he flipped over Zoroark Drampa, and I think I started Eevee and Trubbish or something. And I was like, "Bridget for Passimian, Passimian, Passimian." But yeah, so I ended up winning that one 2-0. Then, but my opponent was really good. It was another good match. Every match felt like it was the most difficult and close match I had ever played. Even if I won a round like 2-0, I felt like it was so difficult to win that round. Round 5, so I was 3-1 at this point. Round 5, I faced another Zoroark Drampa. That one, I won 2 games to 1. My opponent was really good. I scooped game 2 because I knew we were running out of time. And then in game 3, he just kind of dead drew. He drew 2 Pokemon, I think, and I knocked one of them out on turn 2 and one of them on turn 3, and that was it. He just didn't get any other Pokemon, unfortunately. It was his first tournament since Nats last year, and he did a really, really good job. Next round, I faced a Turbo Darkrai. I won that one 2-0 because of Passimian again. So then at this point, I was 5-1, and then I faced a Greninja. Greninja's not an easy matchup at all. Matter of fact, it was basically the one matchup I didn't want to see. Somehow I won game 1. I think I got Garbotoxin down early and then just streamed Trashalances over and over again. So I won game 1. Game 2, I scooped because he had such a commanding lead and I didn't want to tie. Game 3 was nuts. It came down to time. It came down to time was called. We went to the +3 turns, and I lost it on turn 3 of the +3 turns. There was basically a move that I could make where I would leave him with 3 either he would have 3 options in his deck to have a way out and win the game, or he would have 4 options in his deck to have the way out to win the game. So I picked, obviously, I'm going to go with the one that gives him the least amount of options to win the game. So I went with the option that would only, if he accessed one of 3 cards in his deck, he would win the game. Well, turns out he had one of the cards for the 3-card option. The one with the lower odds he had in his hand. The one with the higher odds he did not have in his hand. So I should have gone with the one that had the greater odds of me losing. If I had gone with that option, I think we would have either tied or I may have won the game because I actually would have taken a prize that turn. So, but whatever, it was again, you can't fault yourself when you make the right statistical play and then lose anyway. You just can't fault yourself for that. So I was 5-2. Rounds 8 now, I guess we would be on. Round 8, I played against Espeon Garbodor. It was just a mirror match, only mirror match I played all day, and I won that one 2-0. Then my final round, round 9, I played on stream against Jesper Eriksson, who I think won Worlds and Seniors last year, which is amazing. And he was playing Mew Passimian, and it was hands down the scariest deck I had seen all day. I mean, he ran Catchers, Puzzles of Time, Town Map, Trainer's Mail, Teammates, all sorts of crazy stuff. Brooklet Hill, Octillery. It was so consistent and good. In game 1, and I'll link the stream. I'll link the stream to Twitch in the description. You'll have to fast forward to like 9.5, almost 10 hours in to catch the games. Game 1 was unfortunate because around turn 3 or 4, I started to dead draw, and there was no way. I think it was round 3, turn 3. I started to dead draw, and there was no way I was going to keep up in prizes if I didn't just go ahead and energy evolve my Eevee, or whatever. I don't know, what is Eevee's ability called? Energy Evolution. Yeah, if I didn't Energy Evolution my Eevee into an Espeon, I was going to lose, because I would just have fallen down in prizes so hard. I would have had no response like supporters or attackers. It would have just been game over. So I had to go to Espeon because my hand was dead. I was watching the stream, and I think in game 2, they were like, let's see if he changes his strategy and goes away from Espeon. And I was like, no, I never would have intentionally gone for Espeon against Mew Passimian. It was just my only option in game 1 to even just hope to keep the prize trade close. So he won game 1, I believe, by 1 prize. Crazy close. Game 2 took a pretty early lead. I think I ended up going up by 2 prizes. And then he scooped that one so we could get to game 3 and not tie. Before game 3, we asked the judges, like, what could we do if we ended up tying? Like, what can we say to each other to break the tie? Because we didn't want a situation where both of us miss. And the judges told us that the only thing that we could do is one player could offer the other player that they would concede to them if they were ahead in prizes. So we thought that was cool. So Jesper offered me, he said, hey, look, if you're ahead in prizes after time, then I'll go ahead and give you the win. And I said, all right, when the game's over, if you're ahead in prizes, I'll give you the win as well. So the unfortunate thing, though, is at the end of game 3, after the +3 turns, we were still tied in prizes, which was not cool. So there really was no way to determine a winner. It was the least ideal situation you could possibly be in. I believe, if I remember correctly, I had Garbotoxin in play with I think Tapu Lele on the bench, maybe something else, and then a fully powered Espeon active. Jesper had 3 Passimians and an Octillery in play and a 2-card hand. So our board states were even pretty close. There was, if Jesper had on his side of the field a way to, or even in his hand, if he had just shown it to me, a way to guarantee a knockout next turn, my hands down would have just given him the game, even though we were still tied in prizes. But it wasn't in his hand, and it wasn't on the field, so we were just stuck at a stalemate. It was a really crazy game. It was a really good game. He was a lot of fun to play against. I'm sorry that the game even came to that point where we both missed. I didn't want to see both of us miss. One of us should have gotten in. We just, unfortunately, were at a point where, especially being on stream, when you're tied after the +3 turns in game 3, there just isn't much you can do if there's not a way on the field to show that you can take a knockout next turn. So, yeah, it wasn't an ideal outcome by any means, and I hate that we both had to miss. So I ended up 6-2-1, tying the win and in game, and finished in 43rd place in my blue flight. The top 32 made it, so I missed it by 11 spots. And then I finished 80th overall. So there were 1,356 players, if I've heard the numbers correctly, and I finished in 80th place. So I was very happy with that. I would have liked to have made day 2, because I feel like I had a good matchup against everything except for Greninja. But you know what? It's just how the breaks go. But I feel like if I can just learn to be a master of managing time, maybe I can avoid some of those situations where it comes down to a tie or something like that. But yeah, so managing time, understanding that the flights can be ran separately. I think those are the two things that I will like to work on for the upcoming year. And I went to 7 tournaments this year and ended up with 190 championship points. I was happy with the amount of points that I got from the limited amount of tournaments that I played in. We had a lot of life changes. We moved and started a new job and all sorts of crazy stuff. So I really wasn't able to play in any tournaments until like February. I may have played in like 1 before then. So from February to now, I got 190 points through like 7 tournaments. I won a cup, top cut at a cup. I won the cup with Garbodor, Trevenant. I top cut another cup with Mega Audino, and I top cut a league challenge. No, I won a league challenge with Mega Audino, and and then finishing 80th at Nationals. So that's how I got my points. The other 3 tournaments, I played Mega Audino at 2 more cups and whiffed cut, and I played Decidueye Yanmega at a league challenge just for fun and finished like 3rd, but it was so small that only the top 2 got points. So yeah, that was my season. I hope next season, like I said, to be a master of the time clock and to play in more tournaments. I'd like to hit up at least 1, maybe 2 regionals if possible, play all season long and see how many points I can get, and then really be ready for Intercontinentals, Internats, whatever it's called again. So that's it. I'll bring you guys some more videos once the Burning Shadow set releases. I really do appreciate you guys watching, and always remember when you're playing Pokemon to have fun. Thanks, guys.